When life derails, we all hope for a second chance to redeem ourselves, and A.J. Breaux made his fair share of mistakes, but took that chance and built himself a life of health and generosity. His past seemingly disappeared, but on a summer day in August of 1991, so did he. Today on Dark Matters, the disappearance of A.J. Breaux. In 1991, Houma, Louisiana was a community of approximately 30,000, and among those residents was 50-year-old Adam John Breaux, known as AJ to everyone. AJ was a divorced man who'd battled an alcohol addiction in the past. However, after being 8 years sober, he had a good relationship with his ex and his 3 daughters, Melissa, Tanya, and Monica, whom he adored, and his first grandchild, a child he loved so much he built a nursery in his own home for visits. Friends and family knew him as upbeat and someone who loved helping people. When he wasn't spreading his generosity or spending time with loved ones, he could be found cooking or gardening. He was always well-dressed and clean-kempt, likely from spending over 3 decades working for the Earl Williams clothing store. The community of Houma also cherished AJ as a pillar, the man who'd come from his darkest days to become a leader of the local Alcoholics Anonymous chapter. He strived to be a shining example of sobriety and was always available to those in need, regardless of where they were on their journey to recovery. The Easy Does It Club was set in an old warehouse near the Southern Fire Station in Houma, and this was where the Alcoholics Anonymous chapter met, with AJ leading the proceedings. AJ spent most of his nights there, and the evening of August 28, 1991 was no different. Following the meeting, AJ put the trash out and was one of the last to depart, pulling out of the parking lot around 8:30 p.m. Then, at approximately 10 p.m., AJ bought some milk at a local convenience store. The clerk remembered AJ from earlier in the day when he'd spent $10 on gas to fill up his car. He mentioned he was headed back to his home where he lived with one of his 3 daughters, but when morning came, AJ still wasn't home. Worried, his daughters reported him missing. Jim Bowie Park sat right across the street from the Easy Does It Club. Naturally, the area had been searched for any sign of AJ. But it wasn't until August 30th, 2 days following his last sighting, that something turned up in the park's lot. AJ's 1988 silver Ford Tempo. His daughters rushed to the scene and called Detective Knockin, the officer assigned to their father's case. Upon arriving, the women noticed the car had a cracked blinker plate on the front end. This confirmed it was, in fact, their father's car. They feared the worst, that something had happened to him and he was in the trunk, hurt, or worse, but the car was locked. After police arrived and examined the car and the scene, the Breaux family had only more questions. AJ was nowhere to be found, and there was no sign of a struggle or foul play. Inside, police found AJ's empty wallet and his checkbooks, both for his personal bank account and one for the AA group. There was also $165 of AA money in a brown bank bag, something AJ carried with him often, as he was the AA secretary as well. Curiously, despite AJ spending $10 on gas 2 days prior, his fuel was almost completely depleted. The milk he'd purchased the night he vanished and his car keys were both absent and have never been located. As the days marched forward, the investigation took a strange turn when locals spotted AJ in and around town after he went missing, but he wasn't alone. Kenneth Pellegrin was a local who knew AJ Breaux, but was unaware that he'd been reported missing at the time he saw him outside of a local convenience store. AJ, normally extremely well-dressed, was in a flannel shirt, loose-fitting brown pants, and old sneakers looking, quote, disheveled. The missing man was on a payphone and seemed rather nervous, with 3 men in a red compact car watching him intently. By the time Kenneth came out of the store, AJ and the red car were gone. Around the same time, Detective Knockin got a call from a second witness, another acquaintance of AJ's. This witness, who also didn't know AJ was reportedly missing at the time of the occurrence, said he saw AJ in a red compact car traveling down a rural road approximately 8 miles outside of Houma. The witness waved at AJ as the car came near, and he noticed there were 3 other men inside of the car. AJ, however, did not wave back, something highly uncharacteristic of the friendly, outgoing man everyone knew. Days later, another strange incident occurred at Jim Bowie Park parking lot where AJ's car was found. The golf course maintenance man witnessed 3 men force another man into a white car and drive off. The worker immediately phoned the police, but as some of the details were fuzzy, this witness testimony has never been connected to AJ and doesn't seem to be considered a legitimate sighting by authorities. However, AJ's daughters have faith that the former witness accounts by those who actually knew AJ were legitimate and could hold the key to finding out what happened to their father. The authorities searched through local lounges, motels, jailhouse interviews, and even consulting a psychic turned up no new leads, but the town and AJ's daughters were on the lookout. Flyers decorated storefronts all throughout Houma, and residents continued to keep their eyes and ears peeled for information. 2 weeks after AJ went missing, police received a chilling, cryptic handwritten note. It read, "AJ Breaux. He was drunk at the time. Self-inflicted gunshot wound, stomach. Drawstring cotton sack, put in by friend. Rolled over steep grassy bayou bank, near dam. Signed, Helene." The implication of the note was tragic, that AJ had gotten drunk after being sober for 8 years, accidentally shot himself, and his body was hidden in a nearby bayou. But as tragic as it was, it also seemed highly suspect and unlikely. Especially after Water Patrol units dredged the dam 3 separate times on both sides and found nothing. Ultimately, authorities believed the work of the unknown Helene was a cruel prank or an attempt to throw police off the trail of the real perpetrator. 4 weeks following his disappearance, approximately 30 miles away in Lockport, Louisiana, there was another possible sighting of AJ. Christy Boudreaux was sitting on her porch when a van passed her house several times, appearing lost. The van eventually stopped in front of her yard, and a disheveled man got out and approached her, asking if she would buy some frozen fish from him. She smelled the alcohol on his breath and declined. She thought nothing of the encounter, but as he walked away, he turned back and glanced at her, and she realized she'd seen him before, on a missing poster. When police showed her AJ's most current picture, a photo of him after years of sobriety, she wasn't positive it was him. However, after showing her his mugshot from his days of alcohol addiction, when he appeared much more thin and disheveled, she was 99.9% certain AJ Breaux and the man in the van were one and the same. Authorities theorized that if Christy truly had seen AJ Breaux, it's possible he was suffering a memory lapse caused by an alcoholic decline. Of course, this is just speculation and can't be confirmed. Also, I thought it important to mention something that, according to AJ's daughters, handicapped the police's initial investigation, and it's something that hasn't been discussed often concerning AJ. Not only had he battled alcohol, but some claimed he was also homosexual, something that in 1991 he likely didn't feel comfortable sharing with the world, or even with family, as his daughters say they were unaware of his orientation until after he disappeared. Whether or not this was a contributing factor in his disappearance can be discussed only in speculation. Since the summer of 1991, there have been no new concrete leads and very few, if any, answers concerning AJ's disappearance and the circumstances surrounding it. At the moment, there are no suspects, and if the note given to police truly was a farce or a red herring, there is also little evidence, so we're left with the theories. Theory number 1. Some believe that it's possible AJ fell back in with his old demon, alcohol, after 8 years sober and that he suffered memory loss. What spurred him to drink again, if that is what happened, is unknown, as AJ's life seemed like a happy one. He was well liked, he had a new granddaughter, and lived a peaceful and positive life. Others have suggested that he was coerced into drinking again by someone in the AA group, or went to help a friend in need and found himself in a situation where he picked up a bottle and lost control. Exactly how this could have led to his demise is open to nearly any possibility. His family and those who knew him best don't believe this was the case, as AJ's life seemed to be the best it had ever been, and the reasons to disrupt that were few and far between. There's been no mention of strange or deviating behavior in the days leading up to his disappearance, so he seemed to have vanished without rhyme or reason. This is why some theorize that AJ voluntarily chose to disappear on his own. Again, he was close with those in his life. He had cemented himself in the community as a role model and dearly loved his family. It's certainly possible it was a choice having to do with his sexuality, but it seems, based on the relationship he had with his daughters and how homosexuality is more publicly and widely accepted now than it was back then, I feel he would have returned home by now, or at least informed family of his whereabouts and status. It's unfortunately possible that AJ was the victim of some sort of hate crime, spurred on by his sexual orientation. As awful as it is, I'm sure there were a handful of people who wouldn't have taken kindly to homosexuality in 1991 in the South. It's possible someone found out and either tried to use that as leverage against him for some nefarious purpose, or decided it called for violence against him. While this is a possibility, I hope it's not the case. Then we have theory number 4. AJ was abducted by someone or a group of people for unknown reasons. His daughters have presented the possibility that their father heard or saw something in the park he wasn't supposed to and was taken to keep him from talking. However, if that were the case, it doesn't seem money was the objective, as checkbooks and cash were left behind in his car. Authorities made no mention of any strange activity on his funds or funds he was in charge of, so if money wasn't a motive, what was? It's also possible that AJ's kindness was given to someone with ill intentions that night. The different scenarios are seemingly endless. Police, however, have allegedly believed this to be an unsolved homicide. The truth is, unless new information presents itself, a witness comes forward, or there's a new development, it's unlikely we'll ever know the true fate of AJ Breaux. However, the family and those who knew AJ hope that one day closure will be found. The community and AJ Breaux's family still keep their beloved father and grandfather, friend and mentor in their hearts and in their minds. The family tries to keep the case alive, talking with the media and running a Facebook page under the name Project WISH, an acronym that stands for What If Something Happened. Though AJ's large case file still resides within the Houma police station, his daughters made the incredibly difficult decision to have their father declared legally dead in 1998, which was necessary to handle some of his finances. But they vowed to never give up on finding out what happened to him and hope to pass on his generosity to his 7 grandchildren. AJ, or Adam John Breaux, has brown hair and eyes, stands at 5 foot 11 inches tall, and was 155 pounds and 50 years old at the time of his disappearance. He has a scar over his left eyebrow and one on his abdomen from an ulcer surgery, in addition to a light-colored birthmark on his knee. He was last officially seen wearing a white, long-sleeved shirt with a tie, slacks, and a gold watch. If alive today, he would be 76 years old. Anyone with information surrounding his whereabouts or the circumstances of his disappearance is encouraged to contact the Houma Police Department at 985-873-6371. That's 985-873-6371. Special thanks to the Patreon family who financially contribute to this channel. Whether they are passionate about cases like AJ Breaux's or the other dark content on this channel, their support cannot be overstated. If you are interested in supporting the channel, information is in the description, but even if you only continue to support by watching, thank you. Thank you for giving AJ Breaux's case a moment of your time, and my heart goes out to the friends and family of AJ. During my research, it was apparent throughout that this man was very loved, and I hope that one day there will be answers for you. No matter what you choose to believe or what you speculate, I ask you only for respect in the comments below, and remember, though these may be dark matters, the darkness always matters. Thank you for watching the video. Exposure to cases such as AJ's is highly important. Just to let you know, for personal reasons, there will be no video next Thursday, but there will still be 4 videos released for the month of July. Stay safe, friends, and have a good night.